Let's get into racket number 1. We'll link the Inman article. Controversial proposal to require addresses on ML listings has passed a hurdle. So what hurdle has it passed? Basically, there's a NAR, National Association of Realtors committee that has said, yes, every listing that goes onto the MLS must require an address being shown. That now is going to the board, which this Friday, May 14th, depending on when you're watching it, it'll be this Friday for if you're seeing this right away, May 14th, 2021. The NAR board will vote on this.
Yes.
So I was like, when you brought this up,
you're like, who does that? Who would do that? Who doesn't put addresses?
Everybody puts their address.
Nope.
Not everybody.
No.
Who doesn't?
Well, again, I mean, we have luxury listings, but here in the state, we can only speak for the state of Connecticut at this point. In the state of Connecticut, the luxury market has been so slow up until probably this year, I would say.
And you've seen a lot of people withhold the address? Because
no,
I haven't seen it.
So and that's what I'm saying. I don't think
I don't see it in other states either.
You don't? I'm certain that like in California, like LA, anybody that's maybe famous, I'm sure they're probably keeping their address off.
Well, they usually disclose who the owner is in that situation.
Potentially,
sure.
but I also just think that like to avoid drive-bys, it's actually interesting. Maybe that would be an interesting strategy right now with all these crazy.
Not the kind of drive-by you're thinking about.
No,
not that kind of.
Well, there's so many drive-bys. I can't tell you how many sellers have said, Nicole, do you know how many people have driven up my driveway in the last day since you listed it? Like driving up, they're actually sometimes
that's a drive-in.
Knocking on their door saying, hey, I don't want to bother my agent. Can I come see the house now? I mean,
that's just getting ridiculous.
It's super ridiculous. So maybe actually it's an interesting strategy for right now. But there is an additional section though. Did you read the rest of the article? Because there's
a lot to it. They get into the whole clear cooperation rule.
Well, and they're talking about actually
which we're not going to get into.
Sold listing addresses to be disclosed to. So
yeah. So what they wanted to do was without a sales price. So if there's a sale without a sale price, putting the address but not the sale price. I don't know.
But I do think that on MLS, it's probably in everybody's best interest, to put the address on there. But I do believe maybe some of our viewers have removed the address
here's
from
what
their listing.
The proposed policy says. Residential listings filed with the MLS must include a property address where one exists at the time the listing is filed. Sometimes you have a lot and there's not really a true address. So
it says if a property address is unavailable.
Then the parcel identification number, that would be your lot number. Okay. Must be submitted at the time the listing is filed. If no address or parcel identification number is available at the time the listing is filed, the listing must at a minimum contain a legal description of the property sufficient to describe the location of the property. This information shall be available. So the address would be
like second house on the left, Water Street.
What I found was interesting is that they talked about this in November. We missed it clearly because we never covered it. And in November, there was a huge uproar, which is why they pushed it to this committee. And now they're going to finally.
Well, again, I do think that there's a higher end clientele that probably doesn't want their address. I'll be honest, though, too.
Uproar, though, over this.
Well, again, that's maybe what agents are pushing.
What are we talking here about? 2% of properties, if that?
Well, but again, if you're an agent,
not even. I would say it's less than 1%.
But if that's part of your shtick with a listing, hey, I can keep your anonymity.
Oh, she finally can't talk.
Anonymity.
I love that.
Anonymity. And you try it.
I just said.
No, you
right.
didn't.
I got it because I'm hearing you. I don't want to even approach a word I don't use very often.
What's that movie?
Being anonymous.
Yes, right. I see
anonymity.
Anonymity. Yeah. Anonym.
Being anonymous.
Yes, that one.
So I would imagine we're talking less than 1% of properties. So So if that's an agent stick, we're talking very few agents that have this stick. And there was an uproar and they couldn't make a decision in November and they pushed this. I don't know.
Well, I think the problem here is that most people, if you're going to hear anything, are going to be the complainers and not the ones that are actually for the bill. Like if you're fine with it, like you didn't, like we didn't even know about it, but if you're for it, you're like, cool, that's fine. Like that's how I operate my business anyway. But if that's not how you're operating your business, of course you're going to reach out, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. They could have been exaggerating. I sometimes exaggerate my stories.
Most of the properties on the MLS, far majority, and in the comments if you agree with this in your MLS, the far majority have an address attached to the property.
I've never come across a home that did not have an address.
Well, there you go. I mean, there you go. You said this happens. But
I disclosed at the beginning that I do not believe it happens in Connecticut. I think I mentioned maybe California, like LA, like high, like
and it could, like, if you're talking about the high end, there could be Greenwich that this is happening
potentially.
a little bit.
I don't know. I've never seen it in our market, but I'm certain that there's probably.
I mean, even
obviously there are
in
because
Naples in Florida,
they're wanting to remove it.
I've seen $50 million sales, and the address is right there. You know, you can go drive by there's no gate in that particular area that I'm talking about either. You can just like drive down there.
Well, they obviously don't care then.
Do a drive by.
Well, back in the day though, these higher end clients though didn't even want their photos on the MLS. So you would only see maybe one or two, whatever the minimum really was, because they did not want people seeing the inside of their homes. That's drastically changed. Now people are doing freaking Duffy videos at their home.
mean, at this point, I don't believe the address is that big of a deal. I mean, in all honesty, let's face it, you can do a Google map and zoom into anybody's backyard.
Unless you had a real shitty address. Maybe that's part of the strategy too. You know, like Route 1 or, you know, you're keeping it away because you want people to come.
Route 1's not that bad.
I don't know. Why, you on Route 1? You're not on Route 1.
I'm not on Route 1.
I'm just saying.
I'm just, I'm fine with Route 1. All right.
I'm fine with Route 1.
I think it'll pass this Friday because it just doesn't seem like that big of a deal.